Good evening, members, and welcome to our evening AAIP webinar. Tonight, we are going to talk more about block scheduling, and I do have with me tonight Jennifer Ashley, who is our front desk manager. She is our scheduling guru. She is who most of you have met her when we've gone to do different lectures and different seminars out there where she has worked with you and your staff on the new patient phone call. So she also is the one that helped us design, come up with this whole block scheduling, because for years of her working with the schedule and trying to hit production goals and trying to hit collection goals and new patient goals and lean out the practice and make us as productive as we can be, it was found that unless we have a template every day that we plug in, we're never going to hit these stats. We're never going to exceed these stats because we're just filling in spots. We're just filling in holes, and the outcome of the week is going to be different every time because we don't have any structure. As I was talking last week, and Jennifer's going to elaborate on what I was talking about last week, and I'm going to ask her some questions on your behalf because I know what you're thinking. I know what you want to ask. We're going to get to, hopefully at the end of this, getting you where you can make your own block scheduling. If you guys have questions, you can ask questions by typing them in. I can answer you as we're going through this. You can always email us at aaipsheldon.com at gmail.com, excuse me, and we can answer your questions that way. But as we said before, it's deciding what you need, putting it into action, and not swaying from that. When you have been referred before to a specialist and they tell you what days they see new patients, you don't get mad, you don't balk back, you just take what they have, maybe asking for a few different times or days, but you do what they've asked and you do it happily because you know that's their policy, that's how they work, and you want to go see the specialist and you know you got to get in there. So that is what we're going to show you here. So we have Jennifer Ashley.
Hello, everyone.
She is going to, of course, like I said, just elaborate a little bit on what I talked about last week, and then I will ask her some questions. If you have better questions, type them in, I'll ask her those.
All right, so I know Dr. Sheldon and Danielle have talked about this in the past in other webinars. The best way to get to how you would template a schedule is, first of all, you got to know the stats of your office. You got to know how much each patient is worth to you. And by doing that is you just count up, I think Danielle mentioned this last week in the webinar, is go over the last 6 months. Determine how many new patients you see, determine the amount of money you made in that 6 months, and divide it out, and that'll tell you what that patient is worth to you. Then you set your goals. You determine how much more you're wanting to increase your collection for the month, and then you figure out dividing out your patients, and that tells you how many new patients you want to see. It may be 10, it may be 14, but whatever it is, that is your goal each and every week that you're not going to vary from, because if you vary, then you end up right back where you are. Part of the templating is, first of all, you're knowing your doctor. What is he like? Does he like to come in and do surgery all day long, and then other days all he wants to do is see new patients? Or is he like Dr. Sheldon, who, like he said last week, he's good for 3-4 hours of surgery? So what we would do is we template the schedule for him to see a new patient prior to going into surgery, and then if the surgery was 4 hours, he would be done, take his lunch, come back and see new patients. If it was a 3-hour surgery, that would free him up to be able to see a new patient before lunch. But the game plan is to have him in the mindset of either he's doing surgery or he's doing new patients, not mixing it all up. But to template the schedule so that we had the most effect. And when we first started templating, and Dr. Sheldon was the one doing surgeries, we had a goal of 9. We bumped it up to 13, and we could continue to bump it and find ways to lean out things and processes as we went along. So no matter what the count is of what you're doing, don't say that it can't be done, because you can get very creative. One of the things that I like to do when we are templating the schedule is to make sure that we know how many POTs, how many reevals, quick checks, things like that also need to be included in that whole process, because those are the things that are going to come up and bite you. You're going to need to squeeze them in, and you're going to have the tendency to be tempted to replace a new patient slot. That new patient slot can only be replaced with something else that brings in money, like a reeval. When doing the templating, just like in other webinars, the biggest thing about scheduling someone is with that new patient call, controlling the conversation. I know Danielle and Dr. Sheldon reviewed this with you in prior webinars, and this is as important now as it was in collecting the data and being able to get the patient scheduled, is using that same format in controlling the conversation. You want to do it with a high tone and with confidence. Patients are very receptive to someone that sounds like they know what they're doing. So you want to practice this and practice it till you convince yourself this is exactly the way it's going to be. Now, the way I start out doing it is I don't ask questions. I let them know that, okay, Dr. Sheldon likes to see patients Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays. Which do you prefer, morning or afternoons? This way you are directing them, but at the same time giving them an option so they feel like they do have a choice. They're not concentrating on that you're only doing this Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. They're concentrating on, hey, do I want to come in the morning, or would I rather come in the afternoon? Continuing to concentrate on keeping your template structure the way you want it. Now, I know what a lot of you are going to say is, what do you do about the person that it can only do Fridays? Deal with it quite regularly, and when I let them know, I say, patients just like you have this same predicament, and what I have found works really good for them, they either come to our appointment first part of the day, or they take the last appointment of the day. Which one would work best for you? Once again, I'm controlling the conversation. I'm letting them know that there are others that are in the same predicament as they are, but they are able to still come and see Dr. Sheldon. I'm giving them the best options that has the least amount of effect on their day. And there was a questions that you had, Danielle?
Yes, and we do have here a series, as we did last week, the series of the 4 schedules. And as we said last week, if you would like a copy of these just for reference, then we can definitely send these to you. This first one here is the one that I think that mainly we do try to work on. We do see a reevaluation, a new patient in the morning, because you will have those new patients that can only do morning, so you do want to have a variation somewhere so we can go on ahead and get that out of the way, have them go in surgery for the rest of the day, have lunch, come back, and do 3 new patients in a row, and then our post-operative checks or POTs at the end of the day. So my first question I have is, I know that you have tried different templates. Are we now at a template? Did you find that POTs are only in the afternoon after 4, or do we have other times that we have to see POTs, post-operative checks, because the only having them only after 4 just doesn't work? What's your take on that?
We've tried it various different ways, but every time we've tried something else besides the end of the day, it has a bigger impact on our template as far as controlling our collection. It never fails. If you vary from a window of time than you normally are, you have a tendency to slide it in and squeeze it in between things, and it's going to affect the template of new patients. No matter what you do, there's always going to be a situation, of course, that yes, someone can only come in first thing in the morning. So that may be the very first patient the doctor sees is a quick POT, goes right into a new patient exam prior to surgery. But don't make that be the standard, because it's going to end up corrupting your templating.
Okay, and I did also have a question, because I know before we got this correct, and I will safely say our templates are perfect for us. We don't usually have very many scheduling issues now, and I think it's because we have did a template over and over and over again and finally found the one that worked for us. But for this one, for example, that we have, and we're going to go over what to do on a Thursday when you find your next week isn't full. But if this surgery right here starts at 10:20, if this one is open, would you put a new patient in the spot to fill?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Doctor sitting around is not making money. So yes, it is not an ideal situation. Yes, he's seen a new patient, he's done a surgery, now he's going to have to flop back to a new patient.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not ideal, but in lieu of doing nothing, it's absolutely the best way to fill that time, because you're just increasing your patient count. Instead of having a patient count of 13 per week on average, you've now had the opportunity to increase it to 14. And somewhere down the road, you may have to steal a new patient slot or squeeze in a surgery that you'll have to compensate for that new patient time somewhere else. But always, always keep your doctor busy.
So at what point would you start doing this? Because these are open spots at one point, and you're going to have someone call and they're going to say, oh, I just don't do well in the mornings, and I don't really do well in the afternoons. I really just want to get a new patient examination at 10 o'clock. Can I get one 10 o'clock? And then you have your scheduler looking through, and there's a surgery block spot there, but it's open. No one's got it, and it's 2 weeks before the day. Would you go on ahead and just put a new patient there?
No, what I would typically do, saying I totally understand, the doctor is usually in surgery at that time of day. I will get you to the closest time available on that day. And if something happens and I can see you at 10 o'clock, you'll be the first person I call.
Okay, so at what point would you go on ahead and fill that empty spot? What's the soonest?
I would do it the Thursday before the prior week.
Okay. All right, and so going on that, because I know that was the biggest questions with the offices, is the schedulers, the receptionists are paranoid that if they go to block scheduling, there are going to be so many openings on the next week because the patients just didn't need a surgery. Patients just didn't need a new patient appointment or a post-operative check or reeval, and they're going to come across these appointments that are just opened everywhere. So what do you find on that?
Well, what you're going to do is when you're starting the initial scheduling of a new patient, you're going to lay the groundwork and ask them, now, if something opens sooner, would you be available to come in, or would you like to come in? And you're going to start building a list of patients that would like to be seen sooner, and that's what you're going to draw from on that Thursday. Let's say you have a 2-hour window that needs to be filled. You have a list of patients now available at your beckoning call that will be excited when you call, because you're going to call and say, listen, I know I asked you if you'd like to come in sooner. You said yes, you would love to. I've had an opportunity or a change in the schedule. The key here is to use the word change. Don't use the word cancellation. If you use the word cancellation, you're making it, number one, feel like it's okay to cancel appointments, and you don't want patients to ever feel it is okay to do so. And it also makes patients lose confidence because they're wanting to know, why did someone cancel with your doctor? So always use words that are in a positive direction. That something has changed, and Dr. Sheldon wanted to know if you'd be available on Monday at 10 o'clock to come in for your consultation. 9 times out of 10, I have patients say that they would love to be able to come in sooner and really appreciated that I called them, or they're upset that they couldn't come in because of prior engagements. They did want to come sooner, but so appreciated that I did call and that I did remember to give them a call. It just added a personal touch to the whole situation.
And I'm going to let you in on a little secret, because we let Dr. Sheldon off this evening, so he doesn't know that we're saying this, because I know he's not on the webinar tonight. But one thing that you can move around on a block schedule, because you want to slightly accommodate a patient, is this red one here, his lunch. We can move that around. If there's somebody who really wants to get a surgery at 1 o'clock or a new patient at 1 o'clock, we can give him his lunch at 12 or 11. We can talk him into a nice appeasing brunch or breakfast or something. We don't try to abuse that, but we can move that around a little bit to try to accommodate some stuff in there. As long as we don't shorten it too much, he usually doesn't mind. but we will do that. What are some things, Jennifer, that you don't really recommend that you put in the spots? Like, for example, I know you're trying to get production in the pink area. The point of pink is production. The point of blue is kind of money. So blue brings us in collection, pink brings us to our production goals. So if you had this opening, would you fill it with post-operative checks?
Never.
Okay.
No. Production and collection go hand in hand. If you're not producing, you're collecting. So you would never want to replace a production or a collection with something that doesn't bring in money or produce something. Quick checks, post-ops, things like that are just follow-ups. There's no money involved. They're not producing anything. It's more of a courtesy to our patients and for us just to make sure everything is going well. That's part of templating. You do not want to vary from it just for that fact, because you're never going to have consistency. You start varying and you're going to have weeks where you have high production and you're going to have low collection, or vice versa, and that's what you're trying to get away from.
I did have a question for a question that came across that I want to answer real quick before we carry on. And the question is if you're right out of residency, do you still recommend this block scheduling when you are young, trying to build a new patient base? And the answer is absolutely you should. And the reason why is, for example, we have somebody that's fairly new into practice, and what I said is you don't have to work 5 days a week. You don't have to do this, 5 days a week. You can pick your 4 days. You can pick your template and still work in that template. I know that you don't have a lot of patients that are coming in, and surgery and new patient, but what you're trying to do here is you're still going to work on those 4 days. And there's things that you can do during those 4 days, especially if you're right out of residency. You're probably doing a whole lot of marketing and promo and PR and such. So there's things you can do during that time, but you do want to set that template now. You do want to set in that policy now and get your team and yourself used to how you're doing this. You don't want to do everything your patient says, because if you start even right now plugging in holes, you're going to see a whole day of post-operative checks and uncoverings and quick checks that are not going to make you any money in that day. You're going to have a very unproductive day, and then the next day you're going to be full of new patients and surgery and be exhausted. It's not good for you. So the block scheduling, the template scheduling, is going to make things predictable for you. It's going to make things structured and templated for you, so you know what to expect. You come in ready for the game, and it's not all over the place. And I remember before we had this, and we would do our huddling in the morning, and sometimes Dr. Sheldon would be a little bit questioned of why we're doing things the way we're doing, and why are we not doing much surgery today? Why don't we have any new patients today? And why are we seeing all these POTs in between my surgeries? And it was very unstructured, and it's not good for the team or the doctor. So I would recommend to go on ahead. Plus, if you start your block scheduling now, it gives you a good idea of what you need. So you might be scheduling an hour for your new patient appointments now, and then find over time, okay, all I need is 30 minutes or 20 minutes, and then you can fine-tune this as you go and have a really good plan that you can keep forever. That's your template. So yeah, I would recommend doing it now, because that's what we tell all of our new guys coming out. Same thing, do it now, get used to it now. So Jennifer, I had a question on if I'm a patient and I'm calling and I want a new patient appointment, and I say, okay, I want to schedule a new patient appointment, and you say, okay, I happen to have tomorrow an opening come up tomorrow. I can see at 2 o'clock, and my question or my answer to you is going to be, oh gosh, I work 8 to 5 Monday through Thursday, and I'm off on Fridays, but we don't see new patients on Friday. So what do you say to that?
Like I said before, I let them know that we have a lot of patients that are in the same situation, that they work 5 days a week and they work 8 to 5. But these patients like to either take advantage of our first patient available appointment in the morning or the last one of the day, and that way they feel like, okay, people do this. This is what happens. Especially when you go to a specialist office, you're, like you said in the beginning, they don't give you options.
Okay.
They tell you what they have available. You may ask for a variance, but you pretty much accept it because they are a specialist.
I have heard one of the girls up front say they had they had said something similar. I have to be at work at 8, and I don't get off till 5, but I'm off on Fridays, and of course we don't see new patients on Fridays. So she's like, oh, unfortunate we don't see new patients on Fridays. But here's what I would recommend. I'd recommend see if you can just come in late that day. Come in at our first appointment actually starts at 7:30. Come in at 7:30, get it knocked out, and we'll get you out of here in time for work. And also that they say things like this scheduling your new patient examination and scheduling your surgery are probably the 2 times that we're going to be inconvenient to you. But once we get past those things, we can see you for your quick checks and your examinations and your after checks and your cleanings. We can usually accommodate you pretty well with those. And they understand that they get it. And I have heard patients say this before as well. We only see new patients, we only see surgeries in the morning. And I've heard patients say to you before, oh my gosh, I am not a morning person. I cannot do surgeries in the morning.
Well, and my response to that, surgeries in the morning, I always joke with them. I was like, well, you want to kind of be here in the morning because that's when the doctor is fresh.
Yes.
And they are quick to jump and say, you know what, good point. But I mean, sometimes we can, if it's a smaller surgery, push it to later in the morning behind an already existing surgery,
right,
to make it work for them.
What about for post-operative checks? Do you see post-operative checks in the mornings or between? When do we only see them in the afternoons?
Yes, we pretty much see them. Sometimes we see them on Thursdays.
Okay.
But most of the time it's in the afternoons, after everything else that's collection and production has been accomplished.
Okay. All right. So when the one thing I would strongly recommend here, first of all, have a team meeting with your girls. If you feel that your girls are with you and they're on board because you can really explain the benefits of this, great. If you can't, I would play these last 2 webinars for them so they can get the idea of how good this are. Jennifer and I do this during the day. This is what we do. We answer new patient phone calls. We work trying to get the schedule for patients calling and for our assistants who are closing plans and need surgery scheduled. All day long we're working with schedule and patients. So if you have a question or a barrier, if you feel like you're just not explaining it good enough for the girls for them to get excited about it, because they should be excited about it. If they're not excited about it, they're not understanding it. You can always send me an email as well, and we would be more than happy to explain it a little bit further. Show them these. Look at your schedule. Like I said, look at your schedule for over the last 6 months. And you can easily plug these things in and show them. It's going to take the thinking process out of what they're doing, because when they're on the phone with somebody and they're multitasking and they're trying to find stuff, it's frustrating. When they just pull up a day and they see what we see here, they'll see pink, which is surgery. It says available. That means it's available. They can put something there. And if it's blue and it's available, it's available. They just plug in a patient there. So it becomes very easy. It takes out the thinking. It takes out the error, because for people who are doing this all day long and they're multitasking, they make errors. Jennifer and I will make errors because we're trying to do everything and we don't figure it out until the day before, and then it's too late to make changes. So it takes out a huge factor of trying to get things right, because there was many, many, many years when all that we were given was a production goal for the week, and we had to figure out how to put it in there. We no longer have to do that anymore.
Well, and the other thing that we've even created, even another layer for efficiency, is each day we have a block on the schedule that lists all the new patient appointments that are available. And as each one's used, we take that date and time off. But it makes it very smooth, very easy. As you're talking to the patient, you know exactly, there's no dead time on the phone, because patients sit there and wonder if you're still there because you're sitting there looking for an appointment time. So you go and you find your block. We move it from day to day. See that there's an appointment available Monday at 10 o'clock. I always click on Monday at 10 o'clock to make sure that it is still there and someone didn't forget to remove it from the list. But the whole time I'm communicating with them. Our next appointment is going to be on Monday. And in one click, I'm there and I see Monday is available at 10, and say, we can see you at 10 o'clock. I'd like to get your address so I can mail you out the paperwork. It's a confidence. Patients love someone with a high tone and confident in what they're saying. It's infectious. They want to be a part of it. You've already won them over just from that initial call, how you're scheduling them, the smooth transition of it all. They're steps ahead with you, and they've not even seen you yet.
And like I said before, doctors, you're going to love this. You're going to love it. Jennifer and I were the one, I mean, Dr. Sheldon tells us what he wants. He tells us what he needs. He expresses his frustrations. And then it's up to Jennifer and I to figure out a way to get a solution to what's going on. And this was our solution because, again, she and I, who do this all the time, we're not only dealing with a frustrated doctor who we're not hitting production goals, we're not hitting new patient goals, and he's tired and he feels like he's all over the place and he's running around and he doesn't feel like seeing a post-operative check in between two surgeries. He doesn't feel like seeing a new patient in between two surgeries or doing a surgery between two new patients. He doesn't want to do it that way. But what happens is when we were able to put this in, it took the frustration off the doctor. He's happier. He knows coming in. He knows what he's doing all day long. He doesn't even have to look at the schedule. He knows what he's doing all day long. The only thing different is the patient names. So we did this to, for one, make our doctor happier, and two, because we are training people all day long. And if we're not training people, we are correcting people. We're keeping staff in line. And we find that the mistakes are easier to find and the errors are few and far between because all they have to do is plug in this stuff. So you're coming up with your policy, you're coming up with your structures and your stats and everything you want doing this. All they have to do is plug names in. And also what we found on this is now when our doctor says we need to make more money or we need to do more production, then all we have to do is find a way to expand upon this. So we may approach him with a way to see new patients in a short amount of time. We may find a way to see post-operative checks more in a day or less amount of time. Anything that we come across as a problem, we can look at this and go, okay, how can we be more efficient? How can we see more? How can we do more or less? By looking at this, you can make all those changes.
The other thing I want to emphasize is your staff has to be on board with this. I mean, I've got at least myself, and I know the girl that does all this scheduling along with us, they own this schedule. This is their baby. You try to take one of those new patient slots away from them, and they get pretty upset. That they know that is going to control our collection goals. And they're on board to making sure that our collection goals are met each week. I mean, they're taking pride in the fact that, okay, we put this plan together, we've got the template together, we're working this template, and we're meeting our goals. In their minds, it's like, oh my gosh, how can it be this simple? But it is because it's structured, and you're constantly tweaking and building upon what you've created.
So like I said, guys, if you have any questions, please email us. If you want to discuss this further, we're always more than happy to do it. We love sharing with you guys what works great for us, what has given us so much relief, because we know how hard it is every single day. That's all we have for you tonight. Please email us and let us know your thoughts, struggles, and we will help you through. We will be on again September 6th, and that is right before Boston. And again, we are going to be there. We're speaking Sunday and Monday. Come hear us speak, and we're also going to have a booth there, so come by and say hello. You guys have a great evening. Thank you.